It's time for you to finally wake up. Donald Trump, Larry Fink from BlackRock, and Jamie Dimon. These three gentlemen have kept all of us away from blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Because in the past, they've repeatedly claimed it's for money laundering, that it's money for criminals, and so on. Just think about that for a moment. From 2017 to 2023, there was this huge narrative, and isn't that interesting? From 2017 to 2023, and in 2020, there was a shock to the system. As Rosie Rio said, a shock was needed to change consumer behavior. And she sits on the board of Ripple XRP and is responsible for the introduction of a new currency. And now, Jamie Dimon, Donald Trump, and Larry Fink from BlackRock are suddenly bullish on cryptocurrencies on Bitcoin. And are you maybe thinking, wait a minute, Jamie Dimon says he doesn't like Bitcoin, but he lets his clients buy and sell it. I'm showing you that Jamie Dimon and JPMorgan want to offer Bitcoin-backed loans next year. I've also told you that Coinbase is becoming a bank, and as we look at this now, it's becoming even clearer. And I said that Ripple will become a bank between 2020 and 2025. It's time to pay attention, to get off the sidelines, and to understand that there is no get-rich-quick scheme. It's always the same pattern. First they resist, then they sue, then they regulate, and then they get involved. First they push back so that you don't join in. Then they sue to unsettle you. Then they regulate while positioning themselves and lining their own pockets. And when they finally get involved, it's too late for you, the consumer, because prices have already risen so much. That's why the US Securities and Exchange Commission sued Ripple. That's why Gary Gensler was so tough on crypto. They didn't want you to get involved. They want only 5% of the population to have access to Bitcoin and crypto. And today I'm going to show you how JP Morgan is planning Bitcoin-backed loans. We basically already know that they're going to allow trading. Jamie Dimon's personal opinion doesn't matter. It's definitely coming. Donald Trump, who used to be against cryptocurrencies, against Bitcoin, now has, with Truth Social, one of the top 5 companies holding Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin, and Larry Fink from BlackRock, who used to talk about money laundering, is now, with the Bitcoin ETF, one of the biggest Bitcoin holders and runs the fastest growing ETF in the world. Top 20 globally, basically the second largest holder after Satoshi. And what more do you need to finally get it? They're changing the whole system, so get ready now, bring order into your life, stop scrolling aimlessly, and start learning seriously. The crypto-skeptical bank JP Morgan is planning to offer loans directly to its customers using Bitcoin and Ethereum. Whoever owns Bitcoin basically owns the world, just like it used to be with gold. Soon you'll also be able to use your XRP, because in the near future, XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and probably Solana will be the top 4 assets held by the world's wealthiest people. CoinDesk also reports that PNC Bank and Coinbase are entering, or planning to enter, a strategic partnership to essentially expand their portfolio with digital asset services and modernize banking access. These are the same banks, the same financial advisors, the same companies that kept telling you crypto was a scam, Bitcoin was a scam, and that you shouldn't touch it. They didn't let you buy cryptocurrencies. They didn't let you buy Bitcoin. They froze your bank account. And now they're telling you, hey, the water's warm, come on in now. But they shut down our accounts. They blocked transactions and prevented people from transferring money to crypto exchanges to buy Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And now they're teaming up with the banks. Now they're attaching themselves to a Coinbase. Guys, the system is always the same. It's like in the Colosseum, where they steal your coins while you're drunk in the corner. Basically, they just want you to look in one direction, but you have to turn your head and look the other way because there are plenty of distractions out there. So, PNC Bank has now announced a strategic partnership with Coinbase. This expands access to digital assets for PNC's customers and institutional investors. And PNC provides banking services through Coinbase. There's also a German company, and its CEO has said that Ripple XRP will become the global bridge currency.
The time pressure to do something as quickly as possible against this looming collapse. And of course, people will fall back on what's available. Ripple is there with its offering. And if time is on Ripple's side, then Ripple could very well become the world reserve bridge currency. And if that's the case, then you can cross this out and put a 4 or a 5 there.
And what we can see is that there's extreme time pressure on regulators to introduce digital central bank currencies as quickly as possible. And that's important for them in order to avert the looming collapse. And to do that, they fall back on what's already available. And the US now has a new Secretary of the Treasury who is pro-crypto. And the Genius Act has been published, and crypto is basically exploding right now. Maybe you're also worried about what will happen to stablecoins in the future, how they will be used, whether they are well enough regulated, or if they pose a risk to financial stability. They have basically driven up the debt, printed unlimited amounts of money, printed money endlessly, and now they're doing the same thing but with stablecoins? And the new US Secretary of the Treasury, Scott McCartney, says that crypto does not threaten the dollar. And a book called King Dollar, written by a journalist who has observed the Treasury Department for 40 years, explains that the US has never lost its status as the reserve currency. You'll find the link to the book in the description below the video. The question is crypto in danger? No, it's not. On the contrary, stablecoins could even strengthen the dollar. Brilliant, isn't it? America will basically dominate the crypto world. That means get ready now. This is our chance to go all in, mentally, financially, in every way. Stablecoins could buy massive amounts of US government bonds. In Nigeria, you pay with stablecoins backed by the dollar directly from your phone without real dollars. And that's the genius move, a strategic play by the USA. And with stablecoins and Bitcoin as reserves, America will dominate crypto and secure the dollar. That's why Trump had to back crypto, unlike Joe Biden, who wanted to wipe it out. Trump used to be anti-crypto, calling it money laundering. So what changed in 2023? He had been buying crypto for years, just like Larry Fink from BlackRock and Ray Dalio, who suddenly became pro-Bitcoin. Why? They got in because they wanted control. BlackRock owns 3% of the Bitcoin supply. Since Donald Trump's election, the Trump family has been making a fortune with crypto. And yet many people think crypto is a scam, simply parroting what they're told in the media, like on CNBC or CNN. Or in Germany, by so-called experts like Maurice Höfgen or Marcel Fratzscher. They just repeat what television feeds Thema Vision, a program that channels information. Instead, you should start researching and learning now. And if you want to know more, click the link in the description. Build your financial independence with Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin is not a bubble, and Larry Fink from BlackRock and all the others know that. Just take a look at this video here. Afterwards, you'll understand that bubbles typically go through a boom and bust cycle, are short-lived, and fall back to zero or their original level. Bitcoin, on the other hand, shows multiple cycles with rising lows, which on a logarithmic chart looks like successful assets or stocks such as Amazon, Netflix, or Apple. And right now, the market is testing the true value of Bitcoin. And right now, we're exactly in this phase, and in the coming years, it's going to increase even more.
Ladies and gentlemen, bubbles have three characteristics.
They tend to be a single cycle. Boom, then bust, relatively short in duration, and crash back down to the baseline, which is either zero or the inflation-adjusted level of where they were before the boom. The Dutch tulip mania was like this. So was the housing bubble, so was the dot-com bubble, and so was pretty much every other bubble ever. So, what about Bitcoin? Well, with Bitcoin, it's actually hard to see the price cycles because its value has increased so dramatically over time. So we're going to use a logarithmic scale to look at what a price cycle looks like when you go from $0 to $1, then to $10, then 100. It's called the logarithmic scale, which is often used for assets with this level of upside. So in the first price cycle, Bitcoin went from about 5 cents up to $32, then back down to $2. Now, if we were having this debate in 2011, you could be forgiven for believing it met 2 of the 3 criteria of a bubble, except that it landed at a price that was 40 times higher than the 5 cents it started at. What happened next? It didn't go to 0, it went up to $1,200, then came back down to 92, now meeting none of the criteria of a bubble. Then what did it do? Well, it shot up to $19,000, then down to $3,200. Once again, meeting none of the criteria of a bubble. That's 35 times the previous low price. Then it soared up to $69,000 and dropped to $15,000. Once again, meeting none of the criteria of any historical bubble we've ever seen. Bubbles look like the bottom left of this chart. They do not look like the orange line. So what does look like that orange line? Well, it turns out that every high-value asset that has ever become a trillion-dollar industry or asset looks just like that on a logarithmic chart. Apple, Amazon, Netflix, even gold, when you zoom out, go through the same pattern. And all of these assets do it for the same reason. The marketplace is trying to figure out how big of a deal is this asset? How significant is this industry? And what role will this commodity, technology, or company play in the global world? Bitcoin is doing the same thing for exactly the same reason, which is the opposite of how any bubble in human history has ever behaved. So why is it valuable? Well, for the first time in human history, we have a borderless, predictable, and scarce monetary asset. So what do I mean? Borderless, because Bitcoin is decentralized. It's not controlled by any country, company, or individual. And that means Bitcoin is not like fiat currencies, which are nothing but a bunch of fiefdoms all over the world. And borderless, because you don't need the government's permission to cross a border with more than $10,000. Bitcoin is a decentralized and borderless currency that is valuable because the world has never had a universal worldwide currency that works like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also predictable, absolutely. Completely unlike the Federal Reserve, where even the experts get it wrong every time. And having a currency that is absolutely predictable is a very valuable trait. Also, Bitcoin is scarce, truly scarce. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, ever, as opposed to fiat, which is as infinite as a politician's prompt.
So, we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the USA. A sovereign wealth fund? Just think about that. The guy you usually see next to Donald Trump at every speech, Howard Lipnick, is the CEO of Cantor, connected to SoftBank, which gives loans to crypto companies. He will become the US Secretary of Commerce and a billionaire in Bitcoin. Trump's entire cabinet is pro-crypto. But your financial advisor still tells you it's a scam, you should stay away from it, don't buy Bitcoin, and so on. That means they're not doing their homework, they're not going beyond what they've been spoon-fed. And that's irresponsible. President Trump says the US will become the crypto capital of the world, yet advisors and tax people basically advise against it. Maybe you should do your own research, because that's the problem. Always ask yourself why people are telling you these things or why they believe them. It's time to wake up. Do your own research. This is the era of authenticity. Move away from the robotic thinking taught in the education system. Study the inflationary dollar. Look at how they fire up the printing press at low interest rates, basically printing unlimited money. By 2030, the wealth gap will be enormous. So read books like The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. You'll find the link to them in the description. Stay calm, stoic, for 4 to 5 years. Don't try to get rich during the bull run. Most people fail. Markets always have bear phases, pullbacks, emotions, pressure. Take a deep breath, build discipline, and pay attention to what BlackRock and others are doing. Prepare yourself to earn life-changing amounts of money.